I
You
had
don't
it
care
twice,
for it.
and I'm not a huge fan, but I want to try it again because we're talking about Raising Kings for those of you that just joined in the middle of this conversation as we get ready to start this podcast. But I my brother is a huge Raising Cane's fan, and
Yeah.
I think just whenever I went, maybe I just had a bad batch or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what it was, but I just was not a huge fan. But with that being said, welcome to another episode of the Happy Hour podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. It's nice to be back. The boys did a good job subbing in for me. They probably did a better job than I did. I listened to the show back. Y'all did a great job without me. I will say this: um, it was a pretty good betting weekend. At the end of the day, there was one particular bet that I kept on while I was on the beach ransacking the chat for, and that was with the Raiders +5 and the Raiders money line. And my counterpart here, um,
I don't
let
believe
me
in the
talk about you,
Raiders.
buddy.
Well, it's another sad game tonight. The Browns and the Broncos both beat up and pitiful. Me and Bruning were drowning our sorrows about that yesterday. I guess I'm going to watch it. I don't have great hopes. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is great when he's healthy, and they were talking about him having 2 separate leg injuries, and yet he's going to go out there. So, that's cool. And having lived through a preseason game where Paxton Lynch for the Seahawks destroyed the Broncos, I wouldn't be that excited to see Case Keenum for the Browns do the same thing. It's like the ghosts of seasons past.
To be completely honest with you, I have little to no faith in the Broncos winning that football game tonight. So I just, it's no offense to you. It's and no offense to your team, but
My wife picked the Browns too, as you'll see in a couple hours.
yeah, so I mean, I think the Browns are going to win. I just think that they're a better football team, and I know they're missing literally everybody. I will say this too, man. This week 7 is one of the worst weeks of fantasy football that I have ever played. I have a roster where I'm starting, so it's in a super flex league, tight end premium, all sorts of things. And these are the players that I'm having to start this week. First off, I paid $248 to get Case Keenum off the waivers because I only had one quarterback to start this week, and the other one's Jameis Winston against the Seahawks. This is my starting 13. 13 players we're starting this week. Okay. I'm 8-4, by the way. We play 2 games a week. Case Keenum, Jameis Winston are my 2 quarterbacks. Mike Davis, Kenyon Drake, Devontae Freeman, Mark Ingram, Aaron Jones, J.D. McKissick, Jamal Williams. My only receiver I can start this week is Robert Woods. The rest are on buys. I'm having to start 3 tight ends this week. The barn burners of Jack Doyle, Cole Kmet, and Hunter Henry. So,
and yet you still might win because that's the kind of week it is. It's not just so we have
no,
other
no.
teams.
The teams I'm playing, they're not affected. There's one team I'm playing. They have Matthew Stafford, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, and Tyreek Hill on the same team. Those 3 guys just might beat my entire team by themselves. So,
well, not only do we have all these teams on a bye and all the injuries, if you look at the week 7 schedule, like a couple of months ago, probably looked like some good games. There's only one what I would qualify as a good game on the 13-game slate, and none of them are the primetime games, which is probably a good segue for games of the week. Games of the week was rough. Writing my Friday 5 column where I pick 5 games on Sunday I'm excited about, I had to think long and hard. I actually put Lions at Rams on there just because I want to see Matthew Stafford, what he does to his old team. And if Jared Goff can summon the confidence to flip Sean McVay off on the sideline, I don't think that's going to be a good game. But so the games of the week, morning window, this is the only great game this week. 4-2 Bengals at the 5-1 Ravens. Both those teams have been pretty good. They're actually the top 2 teams in the AFC North. Who would have thought it? I think both of them have playoff aspirations. That one could be good. You could convince me that Chiefs-Titans will be interesting, if only for the fact that the Titans, who none of us except for Timmy Reaver believe in, if they record back-to-back wins over the Bills and the Chiefs, might end up with like home field advantage in the AFC, which
Would it matter because they'll lose their first game anyway? So
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
Still.
This happens every year with Titans fans, and I'm not going to go on a 1 minute tangent here just for a second. I don't mean to interrupt you, but every year the Titans do this. They beat last year. They annihilated the Bills. Then they beat the Ravens, and it was like, we're going to go to this Super Bowl, and they get to the playoffs, and it's done. I don't want to hear anything from Titans fans until the playoffs. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't care if they win every single game between now and the rest of the season. I don't want to hear a single thing until I see them in the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen, so I got nothing to worry about. Okay, back to you, Fox. Sorry.
You actually would have laughed. When we were watching Monday night, my wife, half asleep, rolls over and she's like, "Oh, the Titans. They've never been in the Super Bowl, right?" And I'm like, "Actually, when we go to see the Kurt Warner movie, you'll see the time they were in the Super Bowl." It might be time to move out of Nashville though, because you're probably going to hear Titans hype talk all season long. But
they do it. It's every year.
So the late afternoon slate on Sunday is not great.
Three of the four games are double-digit point favorites.
No, it was tough to find a game I thought would even be great. I'm guessing America's game of the week is going to be the Chicago Bears at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I don't think it's going to be close. But maybe Justin Fields, Tampa Bay really good against the run, but not as good against the pass. Maybe he can get something going with Allen Robinson and make me feel better about how many places I roster him. I'm not confident, but maybe. The Sunday night game is the powerhouse 2-4 Indianapolis Colts against the powerhouse 2-3 San Francisco 49ers. It looks like we're getting Jimmy G against Carson Wentz again. So plan your evening accordingly. I hear Succession is back. I don't personally watch it, but Ricky likes that one. Might be an option for you. Maybe doing some early trick-or-treating. Just tell people you forgot. Just the 1 week early, knock on some doors, see what happens. The Monday Night Football game, also Jameis Winston and the New Orleans Saints versus Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. I know that's the game we were all anticipating. Sadly, those actually are some of the better games. There are a lot of what appear to be lopsided matchups.
Yeah, like I said, even in that 4 o'clock window, the 4 p.m. Eastern window, there's 4 games, and in 3 of those, you have the 15.5-point favorite Rams, you have the 17-point favorite Cardinals, and you have the 12.5-point favorite Buccaneers. So right off the bat, you're really just grasping for straws of any sort of structure there. And that transitions over to our starts and sits for the week. Obviously, as I mentioned in the past, my starts and sits are focused on the guys that I'm playing in the world of DFS, and Matthew Fox's are focused in on some of the guys that he is looking at for you to start and sit in the fantasy football world. And actually, these are guys that I actually would like in fantasy as well. But for the quarterback position, I am looking at Justin Fields this week. The Bucs secondary is not that good. It's been abysmal. Now, obviously, do you have faith in Matt Nagy to let him throw the football? Who the hell knows anymore what's going on with that team? But I do like in a week where you could pay up at the quarterback position, but at the same time, it's going to be a struggle to really find and fit some of these guys in, because you're really having to pay up in other positions. Because if you look at the field, it's ugly. It's an ugly week with injuries included. And then even some of the top tier players, especially whenever you're playing daily fantasy, some of the top tier players are not in this window, right? You know what I mean? Like some of the guys you would typically play aren't in this window. So, you know what I mean? You have some big names from, the Saints, the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Colts all have players that are fantasy football and DFS relevant guys that aren't going to be in this morning slate for DFS. So Justin Fields at 5,300. Chuba Hubbard at 6,100. The Giants are giving up 31 points a game in DFS. I love his value at 6,100. Damian Harris has looked really, really good this year. He's looked a lot better than it's not flashy. It's not anything that everybody's talking about because obviously, the Patriots are struggling, but the Jets are giving up 29 points, for DFS quality as well. Daryl Henderson is another name that I really like this week. And I really feel like you can go on a limb and play some, and this is not DFS related. I really feel like you can play Sony Michel this week, especially if this game really does get ugly fast. They really never take the foot off the brake. They really kind of go gas, but they might tend to rest a guy like Henderson, Henderson is light years better than I thought that he would be I think he's looked really, really good, and they need him down the home stretch because he's just a better running back overall and the best running back they have on that roster. I love, speaking of revenge games this weekend, I do like DeAndre Hopkins in the revenge game against the Texans. I am paying up for him this week. I think that he's going to probably at least catch a touchdown, if not two, just because. And then at the tight end position, I like Ricky Seals at 3,700. He's got 15 targets in 2 games. Watch for the injury status, though. What do you got for your starts this week?
Yeah, so for my quarterback, I went with Joey Burrow. They're playing the Ravens. I think that's going to be a good game. Last week, we thought Chargers, Ravens might be a little up-tempo, and they held Herbert in check, much to everyone's dismay. So that is a bit of a concern, but Joe Burrow is QB 12 so far through the season. It is a brutal week for buys. Herbert, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, all on bye this week. I think Burrow ends up doing well. I think this is going to be a more competitive game than we saw with that Chargers-Ravens game last week. My running back start, Darrell Henderson, just like you. He's actually RB13 on the season with only having played 5 games. And one of those, I believe, was only a half game versus other people's 6 games. It is a terrible week for running backs. He is an easy top 10 play for me. Wide receiver, I have Robert Woods. I think he finishes top 12 this week. He's been on a tear the last few weeks. Cooper Kupp's going to get his, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stafford wants to go ham on the Lions. And then my tight end start is Mike Gaseki. He didn't have a single reception in week 1. Since week 3, he's been tight end 4 on the season. Both Jacoby Brissett and Tua, when he returned, are looking for him, peppering him with targets. They have a lot of injuries still in their wide receiver core. Their offense isn't very good. They're playing the Falcons. I think this might be a sloppy up-tempo game, so I like the potential for Gaseki.
Yeah, I like Gaseki as well this week. I think he's a really good solid option. Henderson, it's insane to me what he's done with his touches. It really has. Like in those 5 games, I mean, last week was his highest total touch of the season. But I mean, you're talking about a guy who's got 372 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then of course he's got the 12 catches as well. So it's been interesting to see. For Stitz guys, these are guys I don't like this week. DFS wise, I don't like Derrick Henry this week. I know that sounds crazy. But his price tag is $9,200. He's easily far and away the most expensive player on the slate. Obviously, rightfully so, because he is on a tear. I'm not saying that he's not going to have a good game because, I mean, he's really on a last 2 games. He's had 34 and 38 fantasy points when it comes to DraftKings. But I just don't foresee him having that style of a game to pay up for $9,200. Again, that's what I'm talking about here. He is the highest priced running back at $9,200. Aaron Jones is at $7,500. So you're talking about $1,700 price difference. And in a week that you're going to want to try to fit some of these high price studs in, I think you've got to leave him off the board. Now, if you want to sprinkle him here and there, I get it 100%, but he's just not on my radar. Daniel Jones versus Carolina. Daniel Jones went from the best quarterback in football to, back down to earth over the last couple of weeks. He's looked like he's struggled, and I think this Carolina Panthers defense is pretty solid. I just have no faith in Daniel Jones. He's not a good quarterback, and the last 2 weeks he's struggled big time. He's gotten 4 DFS points against the Cowboys, and he had 8.1 against the Rams. So I have zero faith, especially at his price tag at $5,400, which I'd rather have Justin Fields at that same range. I'm on the opposite end. On the DFS side of things, I don't know if I love Robert Woods this week. His price is a little bit high for me. I don't really like the game scares me in some aspects because I look at it the way you do and say, all right, Stafford's going to blow him out. But then at the same time, do they take the foot off the gas? And if they do, it kind of scares me a little bit of what he does. I mean, even last week, his price tag is $6,400 on DraftKings. So that's the reason why I'm kind of steering away from it, because the same guys that you can kind of get in that range at $6,400, you're looking at, even if you're playing them in your flex, you have Jahmyr Chase at $6,200, who I really like. You have Brandon Cooks at $6,000, which is really good, especially in a good matchup against Arizona. You have some guys that are capable of doing stuff that are for sure fires at that same price range. So that's the reason why I don't like those guys. It's not fantasy football. Fantasy football, every guy I mentioned, you're probably starting, well, maybe not Daniel Jones, but some of you might not have a choice. But
yeah, especially in Superflex, there's only literally 26 quarterbacks available this week. So you're pretty much outside of Davis Mills, you're firing them up. And I think there's actually a league where I have no other Superflex option but Davis freaking Mills. I hope it's one of his 3 touchdown games and not one of his implosion games.
Yeah, I've got Case Keenum starting tonight, so pray for me.
Yeah. My sits this week, quarterback sit Jared Goff. Goff got called out by his new coach, Dan Campbell, last week for not doing much. They don't have a great receiving core. Their line's been beat up. I don't think this matchup against the Rams. Now, it's possible he gets a fire lit under him with what was said and getting to see Sean McVay, but I'm not willing to chance that. In Superflex, you're probably starting him, but if you're looking for a top 12, it's not happening. My running back sit is Myles Gaskin. Was RB 39 through 4 weeks, and then in week 5 he got peppered with targets when they were without a bunch of people and really gave us hope that he was coming back. Last week went back to being the 3rd running back according to usage with Tua in there. He could have another explosive game, but his usage is so inconsistent that even in a horrific week for running backs, I don't trust him. Corey Davis, my wide receiver sit. The Jets did not look great against the Patriots in New York earlier this season. I'm not sure that changes coming off a bye. Davis only had 2 receptions for 8 yards the last time they played the Patriots. He's had some good games. They have some up and down games, but the Patriots defense has done a pretty good job against some bigger name quarterbacks. I'm not trusting Davis this week. I think if anything, Jameson Crowder may end up being a better play. And then my tight end set is Ross Dwelly. There's been a tendency a lot of times when Kittle's out to want to plug and play. Dwelly saw 2 targets and caught them both for 25 yards in week 5 when he replaced Kittle. Kittle hadn't been getting the target share that he had in some previous seasons. I just don't see it happening. I think he's a mid-tier tight end too, and that's not probably what you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We talked about it in our group chat. It's just an ugly week all the way around. And that's a perfect transition for my bets that I like this week. I struggled mightily to find lines because when you're looking at lines that are so high.
If you pick the Raiders, I'm all with you this week because they're playing the Eagles.
The lines are so all over the place that I struggle with some of the ones I like. And you're gonna laugh at one of them here in just a second. But all right, so right off the back, I like the Chiefs -4.5. I just do think they take care of business. The Titans are riding a high, but at the same time, what comes with that is a kind of a reality check. You know what I mean? This is what the Titans do. They'll go out here and beat a team they're not supposed to, and then they'll come out and kind of be flat. And I think that's what they're going to do with the Chiefs. The Chiefs need it more than they do, and I think this is just the start of a tear. The Chiefs are going to be fine, right? But what they do come playoff time is really what's going to really hinder what this whole entire action is looking like right now. But the Chiefs -4.5, I like that one. I actually like the Eagles +3.5 this week. I don't know what it is. I feel like last week the Raiders are on this high, and I feel like it might have been a 1-game high, and they kind of fall back down to earth. If it's a close game, I feel like it could be a close game. I really do. I don't really like either one of these teams. I don't think either one of them are good. I think the Raiders, they have pieces, but they're still they don't know what to do with those pieces yet. And I think I do love the Drake usage because I have a lot of Kenyon Drake on my rosters, so I need his usage to stay up. But I do like the Eagles this week at +3.5. The Raiders have failed to cover in their last 6 games as favorites. That's a little tidbit for you. I also like the Eagles over 3.5 in the 3.5 points in the first quarter. So all they have to do is score a touchdown, and they cover that as well. All right, so a few tidbits out of the Colts 49ers game. I dug deep, man. I told you I dug deep because I just did not know what I liked, what I didn't. It's an ugly week this week. But the Colts 49ers, I like it over 44 points. 4 of the last 5 games the Colts have played on the road have hit the over. 44 is not a lot of points, and neither one of these teams, they're going to have to – I don't have faith in either team's defense. I don't really have any faith in either team's offense, but I have faith in some of the tools and the pieces that they have. I have faith in Deebo Samuel. I have faith in Jimmy G feeding the ball to these guys as well. Jimmy G is not the greatest quarterback, but I can for certain see 44 points being put up. Also, I like the Colts +5.5. I think this Colts team's better than their record is. They are. And I think that Frank Reich, who I'm really struggling to figure out if he's a good coach or not. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm struggling with him because he finally realized, he turned the switch on last week and said, oh yeah, let me finally feed Jonathan Taylor the same way they feed Derrick Henry. He's that good, guys. He might not be Derrick Henry, but he is that good. You know what I mean? Like, stop trying to give Hines the ball. Stop giving Mac the ball. Give him your bell cow role and let Wentz play off the play action, which he's very good at doing. So, and then with that being said, the 49ers have failed to cover in 8 of their last 9 games. So I love the Colts plus 5.5. And even if the Colts lose, I still see it's going to be a close game. Before I give out my last, I'll give my last bet out and then we'll get to that question. But there's a 3-team teaser that I really like that you flex all 3 lines. It gives you plus 7 more points. So it would be the Colts, Eagles, Chiefs at plus 130, but you get the Colts plus 11.5. You get the Eagles plus 10.5. And then of course you get the Chiefs plus 1.5. And that gives you the line of plus 130. So it gives you some flexibility. Obviously, it all relies on the Chiefs winning basically outright. But I do think that they will. So for me, I really like that line for the Chiefs all the way around, but plus 130. We have a quick question here. Start Tim Patrick or Christian Kirk at the flex, full PPR.
I'm going to start Patrick.
Yeah, I'm starting Patrick as well. Kirk.
The problem with Arizona is they have so many weapons. It's hard to.
And now you have Ertz being there now too, so that's another mouth that's going to try to be fed. So,
no Jerry Jeudy. They are not activating Jerry Jeudy tonight, so it's still just Patrick and Sutton at receiver.
Yeah, so they're not activating their best receiver quite yet. So
with their best receivers playing.
So with that being said, you want to go into the debate about quarterbacks? No. With that being said, guys.
No, but that is going to be a fun summer episode when we get the rest of the guys because.
Oh man, it's crazy. So what we're talking about, guys, we started a group. We're in a group chat, obviously, with all of the sports writers for the Music City Drive, and make sure to check out all these guys' work over at the Music City Drive. And you just click on the sports section, and you see the weekly columns that everybody's putting out. But the one thing that I love. We started talking about the best quarter. Well, it all started because of I said that Randy Moss was a better wide receiver than Jerry Rice was, and that just went off the deep end. And then we went into quarterbacks, and then so basically this offseason when we're looking for things to talk about on the podcast, we're going to have some fun debates on who the greatest of which position.
Yeah.
And I want to handle it kind of like I did like we did the movie review, like give somebody 60 seconds to say your piece about why this guy's where they are. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. So keep an eye out or ear out for that whenever it comes the off season. But like we do each and every week, we're going to go ahead and transition to the movie corner. If you didn't know already, Matthew Fox and I watch a lot of movies each and every year. And with that being said, we are in the midst of the award season forthcoming, but every week we have a part of the episode where it's the movie corner. So many things I think are coming out over these next couple weeks and months that it's going to be brutal. It's going to be time consuming. I've seen 2 movies in the last week. I saw Last Night in Soho on Tuesday night, and then for Netflix we saw The Harder They Fall in theaters. My Harder They Fall review will drop tomorrow, but I really liked both of those films. I liked one more than the other, but I liked one more than the others. The first 2 acts of The Last Night are really good, and then it kind of falls off, which was really disappointing. But with that being said, one thing that I know you just finished watching that I really, really enjoyed, which was Midnight Mass. I loved it. I thought it was a very well-written show. Easily my favorite thing Flanagan's done. I wasn't a big fan of his last 2,
I liked House on the Haunted Hill, but the Bly Manor one was just all right.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that whole genre of thing, so it didn't really, wasn't really my cup of tea. But also, I will say, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So, but I really did enjoy Midnight Mass. I thought it was greatly acted, great writing, and yeah.
Yeah, I really like the characters. Personally, I really love things that touch on faith and theology often. Next year I'm going to start a series where I go through my top 50 of films of all time. Many of those are things that I like, things that challenge me, that make me think, that go deeper. And I felt that greatly with this, especially in the heart of the series, episode 3, 4, 5. You get some powerful statements about forgiveness, interpersonal relationships with parents, grief, guilt, that are just incredibly powerful to go through. It's a very rich exploration, I thought, of faith, but also a very rich exploration of some of the tropes of the genre at times. I have a coworker who saw it. He said the ending reminded him of the original Wicker Man, and somehow that would see the original,
Yeah.
do not see the Nicolas Cage trash. I thought at various points it reminded me of some of the best archetypes of Stephen King. You have kind of a smaller, northeastern feeling place, especially one of the characters really reminded me of Marcia Gay Harden's character in The Mist, which is one of my favorite of Stephen King's, that very ultra right-wing religious but doesn't actually understand anything about what the Bible says while using it as a weapon against others. There were some archetypes there, but just some beautiful acting. Zach Gilford, I loved him in Friday Night Lights, the series. This might be his best work.
Yeah, it's funny because anytime I see him, I always go, "Oh, there's Matt Saracen," right?
Yeah.
And you just think that right off the bat.
QB1.
Yeah, QB1. That's all you think of him. And I don't think I've ever watched anything with him in it. And I'm like, I can't see anything else. I didn't see Matt Saracen in this. Guilford really kind of knocked it out of the ballpark. I also love Samantha Sloan. I thought she was brilliant. She had some of the phenomenal dialogue where, and that's the thing, like that's when I try to explain to people when they're like, well, what did you like about it? I'm like, it is a very dialogue driven show. Like there's a lot of,
it's very emotional.
Exactly. And it's not always hoorah and razzle dazzle. It's very much heartfelt dialogue that kind of goes back and forth. And it really I just love the show. I thought it was phenomenal.
There's 7 episodes. I watched the last 3 in one sitting, and let me tell you, I felt emotionally drained. I still do.
Yeah, it has a lasting effect on you. It really does. I really felt strongly about that show, and actually, I really can't wait to revisit it. To be honest with you, because I really did enjoy it. And the other one was Hamish Linklater. I thought
he was incredible. Yeah,
he was phenomenal. This is one show that I really hope that gets some sort of Emmy love. It's one of Netflix's better written shows that I've seen. One of the better shows of the year as well. Out in theaters this weekend out in theaters and on HBO Max is Dune this weekend. I am checking it out tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. I am going to go check it out, and I will have a short video about it whenever I get done watching it. Ron's Gone Wrong is in theaters as well for the kiddos of the world. We also have let's see here, 19th came out on Netflix, which, look, all right. When Matthew Fox watches this and he sends me a message and says, "What were you thinking?" There's good trash, okay? There's good trash. This is my kind of trash. And honestly, I would really like another one. And I'm just going to throw it out there.
There's good trash, and then there's Halloween Kills, which
it was okay.
I didn't even think it was okay.
Like if for those of you that want to explore that film, it is on Peacock as well right now. So that's for those of you that aren't ready to go back to the theaters. And then of course we have Lock and Key season 2 is kicking off this weekend. I've never seen Lock and Key season 1, so I have no clue what it's about, but I do know there's fans of that show.
It was a fan favorite. I watched the first couple and it didn't really click for me in season 1, but it has its fans, and we can't forget morning show still going strong. We forget because we may or may not have already finished it, but
I watch morning show like I don't even know, like 2 months ago, I think now.
So the other one I wanted to mention is, Last Duel was the other big opening last week, and I know you had seen it. I went to theaters and saw it. I thought it was pretty engaging. I know a lot of people have made comments it's not making a ton of money. I don't feel like it's the kind of movie that everyone's running out to see, and especially in a compressed box office situation. I don't think that means it's a flop. I thought the story was interesting. Ridley Scott knows how to deliver some action sequences. Those were good, but I loved Jodie Comer. I thought she was incredible in that.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes down to Oscars right now, for me, like she's top tier. I there's a couple other performances that I've seen that I've liked a little bit better, but for me personally, she's got to be in that five. Her performance is brilliant. I think one of the misconceptions about that film is I'm sorry, it's good. Like at the end of the day, it's one of my favorite Ben Affleck performances. I felt like he was a very campy,
Very fun.
just it was one of he was having the time of his life.
Might have been too close to his real life, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. But the thing about it is like when I first started watching that movie, I was like, this is the worst performance I've ever seen out of Ben Affleck. But as you see him unfold, you start to understand that's how his character's written. He's just playing who he is supposed to be playing, and
it was super fun that his character literally hated Matt Damon's character.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, for sure.
From their first interaction, I was like, oh, I kind of enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was a fantastic movie. I highly recommend checking it out if you have the opportunity to. It's not an easy watch for sure. Obviously, with the story being centered around what it is, it's not an easy watch. But I promise you, if you get in it, it's that I haven't seen a really good medieval time movie like that. And people talking about the box office, I understand why. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That movie was pushed off, postponed, reshoots because of COVID. Like they had to shut down the operation. So a lot more of that budget started coming in because of the reshoots and the different things that they had to do. So that came into play. And on top of that, people forget Ridley Scott has a little bit of a bigger film coming out towards the end of the year that they expect to be an Oscar player. So they needed to kind of get this one out of the way as well. So House of Gucci's coming out really soon. And that's expected to.
That movie is over 3.5 hours. So I don't know how I'm making it.
Well,
they were talking about like a 210-minute runtime.
Well, I look forward to seeing it in the 8 parts that like I watched the Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting for sure. I really don't. Please don't extend the Snyderverse. With that being said, I am on the verge of next week. I've got a lot of things dropping. If most recently, if you checked out my Jason Biggs interview that I did about the subject, that comes out in theaters. I forgot to mention that. That does come at limited release in theaters, but it's also hitting VOD, and you can actually get it on like Apple TV for like, I don't know, $8 or $9. It's a very thought-provoking look at a documentary filmmaker who basically shoots the death of a kid and an African American or a black kid, and when he does, he kind of exploits that to really kind of garner success, and it kind of it really comes back to haunt him. And I tell you, it's made me really rethink how I watch documentaries now. It really does. It kind of, what's the motive behind the documentary we're watching? And it's something that I've thought about before, but this one really weighs heavy. Jason Biggs gives one of the best performances of the year. In talking with him, he even broke down and said that he didn't know himself that he could do something like this, do a role like this, because he had never really kind of explored this type of role in the past. So it was interesting to kind of talk to him and pick his brain. I also talked to Alex Pettifor for Warning, which I think comes out this week as well. But next week, I'll have reviews for Eternals. I'll have reviews for Last Night in Soho. And I'll have a review for The Harder They Fall, which drops tomorrow. But what you got coming up, Matthew Fox?
Yeah, it's just regular columns and pattern. My binge watch that'll drop a little bit later today is looking at films from Denis Villeneuve, since Dune is dropping. He's the director of that. He has made some films that will definitely grace my top 50 of all time. You'll probably be able to guess which.
Arrival.
Yeah. There's one you love that I was not as high on, but he is a fun filmmaker, an interesting filmmaker. And then Friday 5 column will drop tomorrow. My picks will be out later this afternoon. I had been having a stellar season until last week was a little middling, so I'm hoping to get back on track.
Raiders, baby, Raiders.
Yeah, Denver has personally cost me 3 of my 31 losses this season. They probably are about to cost me my 4th.
Hey, I was a little bit easy. Actually, I was not as hard on you as I was going to be today. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm being nice to you because of
Ugh.
your situation. So, if I would have had time, I would have my entire picture, this entire episode would have been a Raiders picture. You know what I mean? I was very, very nice to you this week, sir.
The embarrassing part was Sunday afternoon. I went to go mute and I forgot the difference between Twitter and Green and accidentally left our writers chat. So it probably looked like a giant a-hole.
It was hilarious. I died laughing. I was like, what do you like? Because you messaged me and I read your message and I went over to the group chat. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty funny. So
yeah, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I left the chat.
Yeah. But with that being said, guys, make sure to head on over to the Music City Drive-In to check out all of our content that we've got going up, whether it's movies or sports. We have a lot of stuff literally pumping out each and every day. It's insane what we're kind of building, the foundation and growing with this brand. I love it a whole lot because it's a lot of dedicated writers doing their part in making this thing a thing. So make sure to check out all the shows on the Drive-In Podcast Network. We've got a brand new wrestling show on the network now, the Uncut Podcast. That's a pretty cool little show. Check that out. Make sure to check out Film Optics and 50 years of music and all the rest of the shows on the network. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and we'll talk to you guys next week.